What's up, everyone? Justin here, back with another video. This video is to celebrate, to give my memories and some of his best moments and some of his best matches and some of his favorite matches of mine. I will recommend you watch and talk about some of his best feuds and matches. It's like a career retrospective on. It's coming up soon because he won the title, defeated the Iron Sheik at Madison Square Garden, January 1984. That's almost 40 freaking years ago. I can't believe it. It's almost 40 years ago. That's insane. But it's almost 40 years. He defeated the Iron Sheik. And we had the birth of HulkAMania. Got this bandana in 03. Came back. When he came back to face The Rock for No Way Out 03. That's when I bought this. Got this shirt a while ago. A couple years ago. Got another HulkAMania red shirt. I have another HulkAMania red shirt. Got this WrestleMania 3 classic retro shirt. Got so many NWO shirts and Hollywood Hogan shirts. It's insane. If I'd count up all my NWO and Hollywood Hogan shirts, it's probably like 10 at least. At least about 10 or more. But yeah, I'm going to talk about the 40 years coming up on the anniversary, the 40 years of HulkAMania since HulkAMania was born in the WWF, January 1984. Let me take this, I was wearing these because my Packers took on the Cowboys, so I wore these for good luck. And look, what do you know? They fucking won and destroyed the Cowboys. But this is not about football or the playoffs. If you don't know, the Green Bay Packers are my favorite team. I'm a hardcore, die-hard Green Bay Packers fan. Go Pack, go all the way to Super Bowl. Why the fucking hell not? You can defeat San Francisco. You can do it. You defeated the Cowboys. Nobody thought you could. A lot of haters thought the Packers were losing for sure. Well, you were wrong. And one more thing. If Jordan Love goes on an insane tear through the playoffs, like Aaron Rodgers did in 2011, we will get to the Super Bowl and win it. And right now, I'm going to have to say it, I think Jordan Love is in his prime, absolutely playing in his prime like another great, all-time great Jordan, Michael Jordan. Well, Jordan Love's playing like Michael Jordan right now. But back to HulkAMania. 40 fucking years. 40 years of HulkAMania. Insane. Time flies. I can't believe it. I'm going to take this off because it's too tight. I tied it very tight. It's uncomfortable. I don't wear bandanas. I never, ever, ever wear bandanas, but I thought I'd wear this because it's 40 years of HulkAMania. 40-year anniversary coming up. Wrestling Buddy right there. Original. I bought that when it came out. I didn't buy it, but I got it as a gift. When I was like 6 years old, I think. I think I got it in 1989 or 90, I believe. And yeah, it's not beat up, but when I was a kid growing up, even as a teenager, I fucking had a ton of wrestling matches against that wrestling buddy Hulk Hogan when I was growing up. a ton of suplexes to them on my bed, and elbow drops, leg drops, a ton of that. But anyways, yeah, January, I'm trying to get the exact date that he won the world title from the Iron Sheik. I think it's January 23rd. He defeated the Iron Sheik. I knew it was the 24th or the 23rd. We're not there yet, but we're getting close to the anniversary, 40 years of HulkAMania. Let me share this more and show you. There it is. Again, I beat him up so much he got ripped from punching him in the face when I was growing up. But seriously, these are damn comfortable. When you were a kid to sleep with, it's a very comfortable pillow. Seriously. There it is. Classic, legendary Hulk Hogan wrestling buddy. With the legendary Winged Eagle title. There he is. Try to put him back up here. Oh, he's gonna fall. Give me a second. So I'm back. I got a ton of just to talk about the birth of HulkAMania, and I'm gonna share a couple Hogan merchandise items I got. Magazine covers, action figures, stuff like that. So here's one of the earliest magazines I got from 1987, August, Pro Wrestling Illustrated, right there. Hulk Hogan on the cover. Before the Winged Eagle title, there was that world title design. This title design actually is in WWE 2K23. If you have 2K23, my God. The content creators that create all the old wrestlers and all the old title belts. Round of applause to you guys. You're amazing. However, you create those old wrestlers, I'm not sure how you do it. If you use a face app and put it on a wrestler's body into the game, I don't know how you do it, but thank you for doing it, because I've downloaded a ton of old wrestlers playing WWE 2K. That's the best part about it, is being able to download old content, old wrestlers, old arenas. That's the best part of it, in my opinion, as an older fan. So, just great legendary cover of Pro Wrestling Illustrated. Hulk Hogan on the cover, slamming Andre at WrestleMania 3. It sucks that all their pages are black and white, but that's what they had to do when they came out. Back in the 80s and 90s, they were all black and white pages. I don't know when Pro Wrestling Illustrated started getting colored pages. I don't know, over the year 2000 maybe. There's another old wrestling magazine from the publishers of Pro Wrestling Illustrated, Wrestle America, when Hulk Hogan turned to the dark side, left the red and yellow, went to the black, and the NWO for life. Too fucking sweet for life. There's Hollywood Hogan on the cover. It says, will Hulk Hogan and the NWO is taking over the WWF next. Of course, they did not, but that's what wrestling magazines did back in the day to get you to buy them. Really cool cover from 96, I believe, or spring 97. So yeah, this spring 97. Here's one more magazine. I have a ton of others, with Hulk Hogan on the cover of magazines, but here's the last one I'll share. When he returned to the WWF in 2002, great epic return at No Way Out. 2002, I was fucking there live. It was electric. That reaction, that pop when the NWO came out was loud as fuck. So loud. It was just shaking the arena, shaking the Bradley Center. It was insane. I'm so glad I was there. Very awesome cover of WWF magazine when the NWO and Hogan returned. Good shit. Now, sadly, the NWO return did not go well, did not last long because Scott Hall had addiction issues, substance issues, problems. He got released in April. April or May he got released. And they just came back in February. But, yeah. Didn't go bad for Hogan. After the NWO broke up, he took on Vince at WrestleMania 19. Very memorable, really good street fight him and Vince had. Definitely has one of my... It's up there. It's one of my favorite Hogan matches against Vince. There's another memorabilia, original LJN Hogan action figure. It's pretty beat up. I don't know how it got like red paint on it. Or part of his, I don't know how he got red paint on it. I honestly don't know. It looks like he's bleeding. Really weird, even on his face. Maybe I fucking drew red on him because I wanted to act like he got busted open as a kid. I don't know. But it's beat up. But at least I still have it, the original Hulk Hogan wrestling figure. Back then they called them wrestling dolls. That's stupid. They're action figures. Very cool. Before I got the smaller Hasbro Hulk Hogan figures, this is all I had to wrestle with in my ring. And here are some newer Hogan figures. This is a WCW 2000 Hogan release. Here's a Hollywood Hogan from 2002. Here's NWO Hollywood Hogan 97 release, I think. Why the fuck did it vibrate and have a button? I will never know. Somebody's on fucking crack that thought, let's have these figures vibrate. How stupid. But it did. I think I don't know. You gotta open his back to put a battery in it. I don't even know if it will still vibrate if I put a new battery in there. I haven't tested it out. Who knows? But there's the NWO Hollywood. Giant WCW. Look at how giant he is compared to this Hogan. I never liked the tall, giant wrestling action figures. I didn't like them because they would fall out of the ring and over the ropes. It was annoying. I prefer them to be like this tall. When I grew up and doing matches with them, I prefer them to be this height. Here's another giant WCW 94 Hulk Hogan figure. Again, these are hard ass rubber. And you could probably use these as a fucking weapon if someone ever broke in your house. Smack them in the head with it. I don't know if it's going to stay standing. There he's standing. So I'm going to get to now when HulkAMania was born. January, before he came back to WWF, because he was originally in the WWF. He was a part of the late 70s, or 79, 78 maybe. I don't know about 78, but he came to WWF. He was a heel. He was managed by Classy Freddie Blassie. He was in the WWF in 1980, 81. And, yeah, he was there. And then he's going back and forth to Japan. And then after, he got fired, actually, because he wanted to do Rocky 3. Was offered to do Rocky 3, become a bigger star. Seriously. A bigger fucking, would help your career. Become a bigger name and a bigger star. Be put in a major fucking movie like Rocky. I don't care if it's Rocky 3. Rocky 3 was great, by the way. It was a great movie, part of the Rocky series. Rocky 3, 4 are great. 1 and 2 are great too. But who would turn... You would have to be a fucking idiot to turn that down. If you were Hogan and you turned it down and were like, oh no, Sly, Stallone. Let's say I'm Hogan talking to Sly. I can't do the movie. I can't be in Rocky 3 because I'm loyal to Vince McMahon Sr. I don't want to piss off Vince McMahon Sr. He'll fire me if I do Rocky 3. We all know the history. We all know what happened. Hogan decided to do Rocky 3, and I guess Vince Sr. fired him and said, you'll never work here again. How stupid. Because back then, wrestling is kayfabe, and I guess promoters, I don't know why, but they thought, no, we can't have our wrestlers in a major movie. That wouldn't help our business. How stupid. Or, I guess I should just say back then, the promoters just wanted to take advantage of you, hold you down, and have you work in wrestling. So they could control you, I guess, and not have you go away, make your own money, and be put in a movie. If you got hired to be put in a movie, well, they probably didn't want you to be in one. Just like when Jesse the Body Ventura left Vince and wanted to shoot and do the Predator, Vince did not want him to do it at all. Or Vince wanted part of his paycheck from the Predator. Of course, that's stupid because Vince, you were not in the Predator. I don't care if you were Jesse Ventura's boss. You didn't deserve his movie paychecks. You weren't him. But anyways, yeah, Vince either wanted a cut from the Predator or he wanted to be executive producer or something like that. So I think Jesse said, I quit, I'm going to do the Predator because it's a huge payday and I'm going to be in a movie with Arnold fucking Schwarzenegger, who was the biggest action star at the time. Especially when he did Predator, Arnold was on fire. Just hit after hit after hit. So why wouldn't you want to be in that? But anyways, back to Hulk Hogan and the birth of HulkAMania. Vern Gagne screwed him. Anyways, AWA also screwed him in the bad booking of Hogan was super over. HulkAMania was born in the AWA. But Vern, you were stupid, man. You were stupid. You tried to rip off Hogan and take all his Japan money and his merchandise money from him. So Hogan quit AWA. Vince hired him. Vince probably, he had a meeting with Hogan, said, I promise you, I'll give you the world title. You will be my top guy, the franchise, for the next 10 years. That's what Vince probably promised Hogan if he'd jump. And he did. But just stupid, dumbass, non-finishes Vern Gagne did for Hogan and Nick Bockwinkel. He overdid it. He overbooked it. He never had Hogan win the title. He kept screwing him, and fucking over and screwing the fans over. Where the fans were so fucking pissed, they weren't going to keep paying and paying to see Hogan maybe can defeat Nick Bockwinkel for the AWA World title. The fans were fed up. And that's not how you book your top babyface. You don't keep screwing them over and over. But anyways, Hogan, Nick Bockwinkel kept having non-title matches, handicap matches that kept ending in disqualifications, and where the title would not change hands. April 1982, Hogan actually defeated Nick Bockwinkel for the world title, but it was overturned by AWA president Stanley Blackburn. How stupid. And the crowds were insane for Hogan. In the AWA, he was super fucking over. He was as over as HulkAMania was in the WWF. He was just as over for the AWA. They were sold out everywhere. For every big show Hogan was on against Nick Bockwinkel, it was sold out. So Vern, you were stupid. Not only did you lose Hogan, you lost sellout arenas and a ton of merchandise that you could have shared with Hogan. But you tried to screw him. Anyways, Hogan returned to the WWF in December 1983. And he did work a house show before he returned to television. But on a championship wrestling episode, Hogan returned. And he was a babyface, and he saved Bob Backlund. So then, anyways, Hogan, out of nowhere, gets a world title shot, debuts, comes back. A month later, gets a world title shot in Madison Square Garden against Iron Sheik, January 23rd, 1984. Hulk Hogan defeats the Iron Sheik. The match was not good. It was not great. We shouldn't say it wasn't good. It was good enough for the time. It was it was good for the 80s. 80s wrestling, it was good. But nowadays, fans would probably fall asleep and wouldn't be able to sit through it, or would tweet, "Oh, this is boring as hell." But anyways, Hogan defeats Iron Sheik, wins the world title. And Gorilla Monsoon said it all because he fucking knew the plans they had for Hogan. And what Vince did with Hogan. And what he wanted to do, he wanted to take the company global, international, worldwide. Vince could have not took WWF worldwide. In my opinion, he couldn't add a WrestleMania without Hogan. And there would be no WrestleMania 40 without Hogan. There would be no WrestleMania without Hogan. There might not even be a WWE around if Vince did not have Hogan as the guy, as a top fucking drawing superstar, global phenomenon that HulkAMania became. He was super, super, super over. If you didn't live through it in the 80s like I did as a young kid, very young, watching, the HulkAMania era towards the end. I started watching in 87 from 87 until, of course, he left in 93. But I don't even have the words to describe to you, if you didn't live through it, how insane it was and how over Hogan was. I can't even describe it. He was so over, super popular, known by everybody. I mean, non-wrestling fans to this day. If you ask a non-wrestling fan, what wrestler do you know? Or who's the most famous wrestler? You know what they'll say? Hulk Hogan. They know the name Hulk Hogan. Everybody knows it. My grandma knew who he was, and she never, ever watched wrestling in her life. But, yeah, Gorilla Monsoon said it all on commentary. And he said, after the match, he said, HulkAMania, after the win, after he defeated Iron Sheik, HulkAMania is here. And he damn sure was here. He had a 10-year run, almost 10 years, on top in the WWF. Now, Iron Sheik, obviously, defeating Iron Sheik was huge. That was huge. Huge for his career, pushed him insanely, just skyrocketed him as the top guy right away. After that, his first ever title defense was against the masked superstar Bill Eadie. Demolition Axe. He became Demolition Axe. But before that, he was in Georgia, mostly, I believe in the South. He was a masked superstar. Then he was in Georgia Championship Wrestling as a masked superstar. Anyways, Hulk Hogan, first ever title defense of the WWF World title was against the masked superstar who would go on to become Demolition Axe in 87. So then Hogan had a dispute with, of course, Marvel Comics because they own the Incredible Hulk. And at one point, he was in 84, 83, he was called the Incredible Hulk Hogan. But this led to a deal that was between Titan Sports, WWF, Marvel Comics, and Hulk Hogan, where Marvel obtained the trademarks Hulk Hogan, the Hulkster, and HulkAMania for 20 years. That's crazy. Then Titan agreed, or they no longer referred him as Incredible or simply Hulk, or they never dressed him. I don't know if this was in court, but they said they never dressed him in purple or green. And 9% of the reported gross merchandise revenue associated with Hogan, $100 for each of his matches, and 10% of Titan's portion earnings under this name, with the earnings if Titan had no interest. And then it goes back to WCW in 96 and Marvel, and anyways, Hogan became Hollywood Hogan. This about HulkAMania, the HulkAMania era. After the Iron Sheik, he didn't have that many feuds until about WrestleMania 1. But He did wrestle Dr. D, David Schultz, a lot for the world title on house shows and live events. And I'm sure others. He wrestled the Iron Sheik a lot also. But I'd say in about 85, his real feud started. One of his great legendary feuds, Hulk Hogan, Rowdy Piper. All-time great, legendary feud they had. It's one of my favorites. Hogan feuds was against Rowdy Piper. Even when they were older in WCW, I still enjoyed seeing Piper Hogan. I'll be honest, in 2003, Judgment Day, Mr. America against Roddy Piper, I enjoyed it, I popped, I marked out for it. Still, in 03. When Piper returned at WrestleMania 19, Piper returned, hit Hogan with a pipe. That was great shit. That was a great surprise. So again, to me, without HulkAMania, there would be no WrestleMania. Without Hulk Hogan, there would be no WrestleMania. Saturday night's main event would have not been as big as it was. Hogan was just did so much charity work in the 80s with Make-A-Wish Foundation. He was on the cover of Sports Illustrated. He's the first and only professional wrestler to do so. He's on TV Guide. He's on People Magazine. He was all over the media. Again, in the 80s, everybody knew Hogan. Everybody knew who Hulk Hogan was. He was one of the most famous athletes in the world. He was a guest on The Tonight Show, on just CBS Morning. He had a CBS Morning cartoon, Hulk Hogan's Rockin' Wrestling. He had a ton of merchandise deals. Anyways, he was so goddamn over, so popular. He was Wrestling Classic pay-per-view, Hulk Hogan, Roddy Piper had a match. But it ended in disqualification, of course it did. Because all their matches, sadly, in the WWF were never clean finishes, because Hogan has explained in interviews, he said Piper never wanted to put him over, but if he would have, they could have made more money, according to Hogan. But Piper never wanted to lose to Hogan. He thought it would hurt his career, I guess. So, yeah, WrestleMania 3, to me, one of the absolute greatest WrestleMania main events ever. Hogan Andre. HulkAMania was absolutely at its prime, at its peak. Slamming Andre the Giant. 93,000, whatever, 82,000, 102,000. I don't care how many people were there at the Pontiac Silverdome. Pontiac, Michigan, that was epic. That crowd reaction was epic. One of the greatest WrestleMania moments ever. One of the greatest wrestling moments ever. One of the greatest wrestling matches ever. Biggest drawing, in my opinion. Because you had two absolute icons. Andre the Giant, Hulk Hogan. Before that, they said Andre was undefeated for 15 years. Which he was not, but I didn't know that as a kid. I believed it. Everybody believed it. Andre was undefeated and unbeatable until Hogan slayed the Giant and it was epic. Every year, I watch Hogan Andre, and man, it still gives me joy and puts a smile on my face when I watch it. So, and the build-up was great. Holy fuck. Andre Hogan's feud. The matches weren't good, but they didn't have to be. They didn't have to barely do anything. And Andre could not do much because he's injured, but the build-up was just one of the greatest build-ups and feuds of all time and storylines of all time. To me, the build-up is one of the greatest of all time. You had Hogan, Andre on Piper's Pit. Hogan got a giant trophy for being champion for almost 4 years. Andre got a small trophy for being undefeated, I guess. And then Bobby the Brain Heenan comes out with Andre on Piper's Pit. Hogan says, Andre, what the hell are you doing here with him? He's scum. He's no good. Why are you with him? He's just trying to brainwash you and use you. Like, why are you here with him? And then Bobby Heenan says, you don't believe it, Hogan? Believe this. Andre rips his shirt, rips his cross, throws it on the ground. Epic. Epic. Roddy Piper says, Hogan, you're bleeding. You're bleeding. Just iconic heel turn by Andre to Hogan. Puts his hand under his chin, lifts up his chin and says, you look at me when I'm talking to you. You could barely understand what Andre was saying, but you fucking knew it was important. Man, I miss those days in the late 80s. And man, I miss those days. Time flies. 40 years. 40 years of HulkAMania since it was born in WWF. Legendary. Iconic. What a run. My God, what a run. From 84 to 93. Some might have been pissed and upset when he won the world title at WrestleMania 9. I wasn't. I popped. I marked out. I was happy. But I was also 9 years old. I didn't care about dirt sheets, and there were no dirt sheets. I didn't care about if some fans that didn't like Hogan were angry if it was, some thought it was the wrong decision. I didn't care. I was a kid. I was happy that Hogan defeated Yoko because I was a Hogan mark. At 9 years old, I was still a Hogan mark. Again, Hogan slamming Andre and facing him at WrestleMania 3. One of the greatest moments in HulkAMania's run, in the HulkAMania era, was the Andre turn on him and the WrestleMania 3 main event. To me, that's the greatest match and feud in the HulkAMania era. But then you go from the HulkAMania era to him becoming Hollywood Hogan. That was iconic. That is as big as him facing Andre when he turned heel and became Hollywood Hogan. That's as big as him and Andre, to me. But that was Hollywood Hogan. That was not HulkAMania. And when Hogan went to WCW, they couldn't even call it HulkAMania anymore. It was just the Hulkster. I guess because I copyright, I think. WWF owned HulkAMania. I don't know. But they couldn't use HulkAMania in WCW. Still, Hogan put WCW's business up there when he came in. Bash at the Beach in 94 had a ton of buy rates. Way more than their other pay-per-views ever did. So he gave their business a boost. In 94, 95, it was not a great business, but they were drawing crowds at least. full arenas. I wouldn't say they were sold out, but in 96, after he turned heel, they started selling out everywhere. So again, Hogan from the HulkAMania era, which was iconic, to the Hollywood Hogan era, which was iconic. The guy set records with ratings and sellouts and merchandise of the NWO shirts. And by the way, Hogan has two of the greatest wrestling shirts of all time. HulkAMania shirt and an NWO shirt are two of the most famous and iconic wrestling shirts there are, to me. You could say there's others like Austin 316 and maybe a few others. But yeah, his feud with Andre was a peak of HulkAMania, his best feud. Him and Andre on the main event, February 88. Let me see if I can find the rating for that. Because it's on NBC, it got a record rating. I believe the highest rating ever for a wrestling match. Probably in history, I believe. I don't know if I can find the rating. But it was like, I heard it's 33 million watched. Or 11 million or something like that. I think it was 11 million. But I can't, according to the internet, Hogan and Andre on the main event was in front of 33 million viewers. That's insane. But again, it was a different era, a different time. Back then, 88, people just watched, excuse me. They just watched a few channels. If you didn't have cable, you just watched ABC, NBC, and Fox. Basically. So, you had way less TV options, no streaming options. So, whatever the rating was for Hogan Andre on the main event, I'm absolutely sure is massive and huge. Absolutely huge in set records. That's just insane. 33 million for a wrestling event and a show. You thought the Attitude Era and the Monday Night Wars were high ratings, and they were getting like 6.0, 6 million, 7 million. Nah, Hogan Andre got like way above that. So Hogan and Savage, the Mega Powers, the handshake, epic. Then the Mega Powers exploded. That was also great. Hogan Macho Man was a legendary feud. Also for Hogan, I'd say Andre and him, number one. Him and Piper, number two. Him and Savage, number three. So, yeah, those are the top feuds, I believe, in the HulkAMania era. Andre, Piper, and Savage. And he had other good feuds, too, that I really was absolutely rooting for him as a kid against guys like Earthquake. When Earthquake crushed him and sat on him, I legit cried. I was upset. Anyways, when Hogan, funny story, when Hogan lost a Warrior, WrestleMania 6, I watched it live at my brother's friend's house. He ordered the pay-per-view. His mother ordered it for us to watch. Anyways, I was so upset and heartbroken when Hogan lost the Warrior. I was so upset I cried. Not tears of joy. I was pissed. I was angry Warrior was champion. And he failed as champ. The arenas, the houses did not go down, but to me, Hogan was a better champion always than Warrior. But Warrior Hogan at WrestleMania 6, I will say, was a good, absolutely mega star main event between two super over baby faces. Who would think that would work? That match between Hogan and Andre, two baby faces, two fan favorites at the time. Who would think that match would turn out really good? And it did. And I credit Hogan for carrying Warrior basically and making him have a good match. So bottom line, to me, HulkAMania is iconic and very, very, very dear and special to me. Hulk Hogan, the wrestler. I'm not talking about the person, Terry Bollea. Yeah, he's fucked up in his life. He's made a lot of mistakes. But he has apologized. And if you don't agree with what he said, if you don't ever have any forgiveness for him in your heart, that's fine. But I do, and I have forgiven him for what he said. It was horrible what he said, but I forgive. I will not forgive if you kill and you're a murderer or child molester or pedophile. Then you are not forgiven. But Hogan, to me, Hulk Hogan, HulkAMania. I'll just say this. He is the reason when I grew up, when I first laid my eyes on wrestling, I saw the WWF. And the first guy I saw on my TV was Hulk Hogan. And I was absolutely hooked, mesmerized. Like, who is this guy? He looks like a fucking superhero. I gotta find out who this guy is. I gotta watch him. The charisma he had, the personality, how he cut his promos, how he talked, his look, again his charisma was off the charts. As a kid, I was absolutely obsessed. And to me, Hulk Hogan was my hero, my absolute wrestling hero. I didn't have any other heroes as a kid. I definitely didn't have a good father figure. My father is not a good guy at all. He's an alcoholic. He's not a good guy. So my father was not my hero and was not a guy to look up to. So absolutely I gravitated and looked up to Hulk Hogan. I loved the guy growing up. He was my favorite wrestler. Again, period. Bottom line, without Hulk Hogan, without me ever seeing him, I would not be a wrestling fan without him. I don't know if I would be. But Hulk Hogan absolutely hooked me onto pro wrestling for life. No pun intended. I'm a wrestling fan for life until I'm 6 feet under, and that is thanks to Hulk Hogan. I hail you, I thank you, because you're the reason I'm a wrestling fan. You're the reason I love pro wrestling. You're also probably the reason WWE is still my favorite company, because you were in it, you built it. You absolutely built the foundation of what it is today. A $9 billion worth, $9 billion. And I don't know who else could done what Hogan did? Who could have carried that ball? Seriously, who could have done it? I heard rumors that Vince wanted, or if Hogan was not his guy, Vince was going to get Dusty Rhodes maybe to be the guy. That could have worked, I think, but not as good as Hogan did. Because, seriously, every show, every house show, live event, whatever, pay-per-view, Saturday night's main event, whatever. If you had a show, like let's say their WWF was running 3 shows in the 80s, A show, B show, C show in different towns. That's insane to think about today. I can't believe they did that. They ran 3 shows in the same fucking weekend. Where like Hulk Hogan was the main event of one show, it sold out. And then the B and C show, let's say, had Randy Savage as the main event. I don't know if they'd sold out, but I do know every show Hogan was on fucking sold out. One of the biggest, absolute biggest, you can love him or hate him. Hulk Hogan's one of the biggest names, one of the biggest draws, one of the biggest money makers in wrestling history. When he was in his prime, nobody was more over, nobody was more popular, nobody, I doubt, sold more merchandise. Remember those foam fingers? HulkAMania foam fingers? I had one of them. I lost it. I don't know what happened to it, but years ago I haven't seen it in like 30 years probably. I don't have it anymore, but I did have a foam HulkAMania finger at one point. I got to see him live in 1988. Main event taping where it was the Mega Powers against the Twin Towers, where Savage backstage turned on Hogan. I was there for that. I was only 4 years old, but I was there actually. I don't remember that much of the show, but I was there. I know I was there. Now I got to see him again in 1989 at a house show. I think he took on Randy Savage on that house show, or Earthquake, I believe. And actually, at that house show in 89, I don't have the finger, the HulkAMania #1 finger anymore, but I do have this that I got at that house show. I actually got this. My aunt and uncle bought it for me there. I also had a Hulk Rules tank top. I had a Hulk Rules tank top for years and years. I don't know what happened to it, but I did have a Hulk Rules tank top. It was way too big for me. I was like only 5 years old. It was like a large. It was huge. It didn't even fit me at the time. But I just want to say 40 years of HulkAMania. Final thought, I just want to say thank you, Hulk Hogan, for all you did for wrestling in the 80s, for the foundation that you built brick by brick with Vince McMahon's help, and of course the other wrestlers you worked with. HulkAMania wouldn't have been as big as it was without the legendary feuds and Vince McMahon as the boss running the ship. Because Vern Gagne had HulkAMania, and what happened? He fucked up and dropped the ball with it. I don't know how, but he did. So I just want to say, and by the way, this title belt says 1988 Titan Sports on it. That's how old it is. 1988. They were still selling it in 89 at house shows. But, yeah, I just want to say thank you, Hulk Hogan. Sadly, all the leg drops have made you almost paralyzed with like 11 back surgeries, hip replacements, knee replacements. Just thank you, Hulk Hogan. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for making me a HulkAManiac and a wrestling fan for life. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Bye for now, everybody. I'm going to celebrate 40 years of HulkAMania by watching a lot of old Hulk Hogan matches on Peacock. And my DVD Hulk Hogan collection. Bye for now.